almost every time. In this Masechta Shevi'is, since I'm using the Kav Hanoki, so this has a lot of Shnui Gersos. It's actually incorporated in the text. So there might be some differences, so if you can point them out. So we'll know when he adds on stuff. There's a halach of Tosefes Shevi'is to add on to Shemitah, just as there's a halach to add on to Shabbos. There's machlokes which we're going to see alluded to in our Gemara, although it's mostly in the Rishonim, whether this is actually the Rabbanan or Doraisa. But there is a din of Tosefes Shevi'is on Erev Shevi'is, and the question is when does Tosefes Shevi'is start? Beishamai says the Tosefes Shevi'is starts when the time when it's no longer good for the fruit of that year, of the 6th year, is when that time ends, and when now you're doing whatever you're doing can only be possibly good for the good of the fruit of the 7th year, which is going to grow during Shemitah. Besorim Arates Besil gives a precise time for that, which is Shavuos. It's essentially the same time. There's very little difference between the time Beis Shammai gave, which is subjective, and the time Beis Hillel gave, which is objective. Okay, it says Ksiv. It says Sheishes Yomim Tavod, 6 days you shall work, and the 7th day you shall rest. Is this already different than yours?
Well, it quotes the Mishnah. Adei Masai Chorshim.
Okay.
It says Ksiv Sheish.
Okay, I'm using. I was just said a couple of minutes ago. I'm using a different text, which has probably substantial differences from the text you have in front of you. Although only words here and there, but there may be several variations. Okay, so it says it says on the 6 days you shall work, and the 7th day you shall rest. And it says during the plowing and the harvesting you shall rest. Now, that latter statement, that you should rest during the plowing and the harvesting, what are we discussing over there? Even the on the Shabbos Breishis in terms of the 7th day of the week, which is called Shabbos Breishis. It already says 6 days you shall work and do all that need your jobs. And the 7th day you shall rest. Even if it's talking in terms of Shemitah, meaning the Shabbos of years. But look, already says, Sheishanim Tizra Sadecha. You have it? 6 years you shall plant your field, and 6 years you shall prune your vineyard. If it's not necessary, neither for Shabbos Breishis, nor Veloli and Shabbos Sonim, nor in terms of Shabbosos of years, meaning it can't be referring to Shemitah itself. This possible to tell us B'charish v'katzir tishbos.
It says Taneu Inyan be'isur shnei prakim harishonim b'charish v'katzir tishbos.
Oh, so see, he has a different one here. He says Taneu Inyan Tosefes Shevi'is v'asu rabbanan v'takinu. Okay, make it use it for Tosefes Shevi'is, and the rabbis came and they made a takana that it's the 2 prakim, and the 2 prakim are either Shavuos, as is mentioned in our Mishnah, or for a field of grain from Pesach. Okay, so according to this, it sounds like a doraisa because we're learning from a pasuk, except the pasuk might be an asmachta, because after all, pasuk is really talking about Shabbos, not about Shemitah. Be that as it may, that now here I have another 4 words that you probably don't have. Kai detanya, like that which it says in Brisa. Rabbi Kiva Omer, Rabbi Kiva says, you don't have those words, right?
No.
During the, see, I can tell because he puts little letters in whenever he's adding words. During the harvest and during the planting, during the plowing, during the harvest, you shall rest. But this is referring to Shemitah. You should rest or desist, perhaps would be a better word. You should desist from plowing when the plowing will lead to a crop whose harvest will be forbidden, meaning you should not plow in the 6th year to prepare for the crop in the 7th year, when the harvest will be forbidden. what is that? The chorish of the eve of Shemitah, which goes into Shemitah, and of a katzir shecharisho aser should not harvest a crop where the plowing was forbidden. That's that which is that referring to katzir shel Shevi'is sheyotze motzoi Shevi'is, a harvest of Shemitah, which then extends into motzoi Shemitah. In other words, you shouldn't be involved in harvesting after Shemitah is over the fruit which grew during Shemitah itself. Okay, Vim Kain, if that's the case, Lama Nemar, why does it say Chorshin? What do you have there? Chorshin. Why is it Chorsha Rosh Hashanah? Now this is going to be later. We didn't have this yet, but later on it's going to say that you can plow till Rosh Hashanah. Yet here it says, in our we just learned, it seems, from Psukim, that's a Torah prohibition to plow. It says, Gemara, Rabbi Kruspadoi, B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Kruspadoi, said, Nim Rabbi Yochanan, very fascinating thing, Rangamliel Beis Dino, Rangamliel and his Beis Din, Hitiru Isur Shnei Prokim, Rishonim. They canceled the prohibition of Pesach and from Pesach and from Shavuos. Now it's no longer forbidden to that extent. Now, according to those who learn Tosefes Shevi'is is the Raisa, even after Ran Gamliel and his Beis made this takon, it's still prohibited for 30 days prior to Shemitah. In other words, they prohibited the extension back to Shavuos, or they permitted the extension back to Shavuos, but it's the Raisa, they can't permit the last 30 days. They simply can't. That's Tosefes Shemitah. There are others who say no, that Tosefes Shemitah the Raisa is just a mashu, like Erev Shabbos. It's a few minutes before.
How'd they get 30 days for Tosefes Shemitah?
30 days, a few minutes for a day. It's just a question of what when you're dealing with the year. So an interval before is a month. So kind of arbitrary. Rosh Hashanah, yeah, not Tu B'Shvat, yeah. Or now, it's an interesting thing which I want to point out is that the Ram we had back at the end of Kilayim, we had a sugi in which it said that a kolis court, the one mandar plowing is not also in Shemitah because it has to be planting, not just plowing. We said plowing, right? It has to be right, yes. Right. So plowing. We said even if you could create kilayim by plowing and the dirt falls on the kilayim, you might not transgress the prohibition. So the Rama in fact paskins that plowing is not necessarily the rights during Shemitah. So he has to learn that this whole sugi is all asmachtas. It's all not bona fide drushos, but rather just arbitrary linkages of rabbinic decrees to Torah concepts, because here it seems the sugi it seems to tell us that b'chorish tishbos means you're not allowed to even plow erev Shemitah when it's going to lead into Shemitah, certainly not Shemitah itself. So the Rambam clearly doesn't learn the sugi in a simple way. I left my big one around the car. Is that one too small for you? But otherwise, I have my big one in the car.
This one?
Yeah. I'll do it for tonight. No, take a look at the proud type before you say that.
Even the big Gemara's type is
yeah. Okay. Vamar Rabbi Kruspadoi. Rabbi Kruspadoi said, we just learned that there was a din of Tosefes Shevi'is adding on to Shemitah from Pesach and from Shavuos. And then Rabbi Gamliel came and he canceled that din. He said one doesn't have to keep this from the Pesach or Shavuos of the sixth year. One starts tops 30 days before, perhaps even a few minutes before Shemitah, depending on which Rishon you learn like. Now I was going to ask a very basic question on this. Very, very basic. And now you don't have the next three words. Do you know where we show doctors where Rabbi Yochanan Boy, right?
It's the third starts. I'll tell you which line. Rabbi Yochanan Boy, right there.
Okay, it's over here. It's by Little Dalit. You have it now? Okay, now I have three extra words here. V'amar Rabbi Kruspadoi. And for some reason throughout the sugya it says here in my Gemara Rabbi Kruspadoi. V'amar Rabbi Kruspadoi, Rabbi Yochanan Boy. Rabbi Yochanan asked, wait a minute, how could Rabbi Gamliel's based in cancel the takon of Tosefes Shevi'is? Lo came to Nina Tamar, then we learn over there, ain't based in Yachol Avatel Divrei based in Chaver, one based in cannot cancel the decree of a prior based in Adshia Goldemi Menu B'Chochma Minyan unless it's greater than the other based in wisdom and in numbers. again, Rabbi Krus Bedoy, B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan said, Hey Mamru, the original basin which made the decree not to keep a Tosefah Shvi'is, to keep added on before and after Shemitah, they originally made it part of their takana, part of their enactment, Sheim Yavakshu Lachrosh Yachroshu, that if some later generation wants to come and uproot the prior decree, they're allowed to do so. So it was an escape hatch built into the original decree. Says, well, if that's the case, V'akru so many Mishnah, but why did they leave it in the Mishnah in Masechta Shvi'is if it's not true anymore? Those Shvi'is is archaic halachos, so to speak. Let it be taken off the law books. So it says, well, Rabbi Yochanan said, you know why it wasn't taken off the law books? If someday they want to go back and reenact the takana, they should know that they're following the footsteps of earlier distinguished generations. Hey, so Rabbi Yonah asked a question. This question is not a real question. He's about to ask a question in order to say a different answer to the original question. The original question was, why didn't they take it off the law books? So he's going to give a different answer by asking a question. It's a rhetorical one. Hey, so Rabbi Yonah asked, Harei Parshas Miluim, the parsha in the Torah of Miluim, where it says that how Aaron was inducted into Kuna. Very Parshas Torah Mabul, and the Rashi talks about the deluge. Harei Einon Asi Lachzer. That's it. There are only one-time occurrences. There ain't happening again. Me'ata Yaakov something in Mishnah. Let's take them out of the Mishnah or out of Tanakh. Elo Kedei Lo Diacho. It's coming to teach us what went on yesteryear. So Afkad Konami here too. Kedei Lo Diacho, in order to tell us what went on in the past. Now we're going to learn another teretz. No good? Did I bring the wrong one? It should be in here. It doesn't have it. Is the division different? You're right. This volume is divided up differently. Give me a minute. I'll go. So again, Haste Rabbi Yonah. Rabbi Yonah asked Rabbi Parshas Miluim, Rabbi Parshas Torah Mabul, Rabbi Einon seen Laos, they ain't coming back. Me'atu Yakru some in Mishnah. Let them take out the Mishnah. Kedei Lo Diacho. Or it tells what happened in the past. Konami Kedei Lo Diacho. Here too, it's also in order to tell us. Now, I have here, I don't know if you have this in the Gemara. Rabbi Mona Amar. Rabbi Mona said.
This is Amar Ramon.
Ramona, okay. Kai Tznina Tamon, like it's mentioned in other places. This is mentioned Bavli a couple of times. In Kain Lamas Kirin Divrei Yochid Levatlon. Why is the words of an individual mentioned? In order to negate them. Maybe a person will come and say, oh yeah, I heard a shita once, a shita so-and-so. So what a yom rulo, so we respond to him, K'divrei ish ploini shamata. Yeah, you heard like you liked so-and-so, but we don't paskin like him. But sometimes you mention minority opinion in order...
That's the Ravid in Adius.
That's the Ravid in Adius says?
This says the reason why it mentions a minority opinion is that later on, if the Bezdin, which is not going to be Minion, wants to overturn that prior...
We said there was a...
So they can rely upon the minority opinion.
Because he brings down Adios Aleph Vav, so I guess that's where it is.
Okay, yeah.
That's where it is. Yeah. Okay, Shim Yomer Adam Kachani Makubo, they say, it says, this is my tradition, Yom Lo, they say, Kedivish Play Shamati, you're like so-and-so. Because, so to hear, Shiomer Adam Shamati Shosalach Rosh Hashanah, if somebody says, I heard that it's also to plow, until Rosh Hashanah. In other words, one has to stop plowing significantly earlier. Yom Ulo, they'll say to him, Be'isur Shnei Prakim Harishonim Shamata. You heard about the Isser of the two Prakim, in other words, Isser from Pesach and from Shavuos, but that's an archaic halacha, we don't follow it anymore. Now, we get another answer to the question. This is the most amazing one. Rabbi Yaakov B'Shem Rabbi Yona's son said, You know why Rabbi Gamliel on his court could cancel the prior ruling? Because b'shot she'asru, at the time that they learned the prohibition, la mikra samchu, they linked it to an understanding of a pasuk. Uv'shot she'tiru la mikra samchu, when they permitted it, so they also linked to understanding a pasuk. Now this is as the very well-known Rambam in Hilchos Mamrim writes. That which a Beis Din cannot cancel the decree of a prior Beis Din is only when it's an enactment or a decree. But if the prior Beis Din had darshan the pasuk that extrapolated a law from a Yudke Momido Shatar Nidresh Ben, one of the hermeneutic principles, So then later on, a subsequent beis din, even if they're a smaller beis din, can come and overturn the ruling of the first beis din. So that which Gora b'Chochma Minyan is required, it's only required to overturn a takana d'Rabbanan, which is, according to our sugi, independent of a pasuk. But if it's a daraisa or something even linked to a pasuk, perhaps by an asmachta, so then a later beis din, even a smaller beis din, can come and overturn it. Right? Not anymore. The CRC can't overturn takanas d'Rabbanan. Okay, other bati din as well. But once upon a time, the good old days, it was possible. Okay, says the Gemara, how did it work? When they made it also they linked it at the pasuk. You should rest during the plowing and during the harvesting. There's certain plowings which are prohibited because their harvests are also. What's that case? The case of plowing the Chorshel Shvi'is, where you plow Shvi'is and Nichnas Shvi'is, and it's going to lead, and the crop is going to actually grow during Shemitah. And on the other end of Shemitah, the Kotzer Shecharisha also, a certain harvest where the plowing is forbidden. What case is that? Kotzer Shvi'is, Sheyoytzel Motzoi Shvi'is. This is the harvest of Shemitah, which goes out to Motzoi Shemitah. Since the crop grew on Shemitah, it's forbidden to harvest. That's what these are the psukim they learned when they made it forbidden. They permitted, they linked it to a pasuk as well. Ksiv hacha b'shvi is Shabbos. What does it say by you?
It says Shesis Yom Tavim Yisus Kamlan Telchon. My Erev Shabbos Bereshis Mutter Lasos Malacha At Shetishkacham Af Erev Shabbosos Shabbosos Shanim At Mutter Lasos Malacha At Shetishkacham.
Okay, so it's the same idea. Let me read it the way I have it because that's the way I have it. It says here by Shemitah that it's called Shabbos. It says, of course, by the Shabbos, which comes every 7 days, Shabbos. So it's Xer Shava, right? A linkage. My Erev Shabbos be'Breishis ad mutar lasbo malacha chetishka chama. Just like Erev Shabbos be'Breishis do malacha until the sun sets. Av arvei Shabbos shonim, so to Erev Shabbos of Shemitah amut asos ben malacha chetishka chama do malacha until Shkia. What Shkia? Erev Shana. What well-known principle that we know from the Bavli do you see shot down here as we've seen it? No. Hermeneutic principle. Oh, you know. You're just not thinking. You've identified this one in the past. You've asked me these questions in the morning. What well-known principle do we have here see negated? What are they using to make? What tool are they using here? Shabbos.
That's
What? No. Xer Shava.
Right.
What's our principle by Xer Shava? Oh, come on. Guys got to take up coffee at night. Who can make Xer Shava?
You have to have a Kabbalah?
Ain't no dumb don Xer Shava and can't keep Lo Me Rabo. Person can only make Xer Shava if you got it as a Messiah. But here, this based in Ram Gamliel was Mechadish Xer Shava in order to overturn the prior based in's ruling. Right? So here you see that the principle of Ein Adam Xer Shava Helen can't keep Lo Me Rabo is not followed. There are many exceptions to that principle all over Shas. I guess if you were an apologist, you would say that in this case, well, maybe they were somebody had a Messiah, just was suppressed or something like that. But the Pashup shot is that they actually were made Xer Shava up. All right, that's what we see here. Okay. Beis Hillel Meimatzers. Beis Hillel says until Shavuos you can plow. Now until Shavuos, we're talking about by a tree. By an orchard or something like that, but even by a pine tree, a tree which doesn't make fruit. Ad kanu yafel apriv. Why? Because until Shavuos is good for the fruit of the 6th year. Mikam ve'elach, from there on in. On the contrary, manava peros, if it ruins the fruit that's in the tree now, it can only be understood as being a preparation for the following year. As the Gemara, then we learn whether it be a barren tree, or fruit-bearing tree, etc. Choshen kol beisah b'shvilon. You can harvest you can plow an entire beisah, which we'll get to later on, with 2,500 square amos for them. Now, the kasha is, be that as it may, whatever the halacha is over there, it says there that you can do this even for Ilan Sruk, even for a non-fruit-bearing tree. If you're going to say the parameter is what's good for the fruit of the 6th year as opposed to what's preparation for the 7th year fruit, that doesn't apply to barren trees. It doesn't apply to maples, right? So it says, you're right. I'll give you a different logic for that. Akanum avisa kores, until per Shavuos, you're actually your harvesting, your plowing will actually be make the trunk thicker and stronger. From there on in, it makes the trunk weaker. Ask the Gemara, you know what? If it makes it weaker, v'yachrosh, let him plow. What's the whole problem with Shemitah? Doing positive work, which is beneficial for a tree. So Sefer Shvi shouldn't be any worse than Shemitah itself. So therefore, if the work is actually harmful for the tree, what do I care if you're doing it during the Sefer Shvi? Since he knows that by doing this, he is what's the word? Weakens. I'm looking for saps. That he's sapping the strength of the tree, right? Matish Kol is sapping the strength of the tree. In fact, we know that the only reason he's plowing must be to prepare the land for next year, because obviously for the tree it's not relevant at this stage. It says more further, Beishamai says to with Shavuos, and Basil says it has to do with the last time that's beneficial for the crop of the 6th year. They're similar, but Basil's time is earlier. That's what the more asks. Why is not mentioned Eduyos with the other things such Chumras of Beishamai and Chumras of Basil and Kulas of Beishamai? So I'm going to tell you why. Because sometimes Beishamai is a Chumra. Because sometimes there isn't rain, and the ground is not moist. And in that case, he has to stop plowing even before. Osid means here not that he's going to, but he must stop. He's going to stop plowing before a Shavuos, because since there's a drought that year, the plowing is not beneficial. Just on the contrary, robs the tree of whatever little moisture there is in the ground. So then, in that case, you have to stop plowing considerably earlier, and to plow Erev Shemitah in that field would be also even earlier than Shavuos. And Basil, nonetheless, would even say in this case, Omri Mara Atzeres, that you have until Shavuos to continue to plow your field. Okay? Says the Mishnah further. Ezu Sada Elon. What is a tree? A tree orchard that you can plow up to Shavuos, and after that, of course, even to Rosh Hashanah, but before they were obliterated, our Mishnah they can plow till Shavuos. Kol Shlosha Ilanis Beisah, wherever you have 3 trees in a 2,500 square amma area. Mrs. Zug, do you mind turning on the fan? It's a little bit hot. Thank you. So, a 2,500 square amos, 3 trees in that area are considered to be an orchard, and you can then plow the entire area. As long as all together they make a pressed fig cake of 60 monos in Italian measure. If that's the case, you can harvest, you can plow the entire area around them, the entire 25 square 100 amos. If they make less or are less than they're not in, say, the proper proportion, and you can't do the entire field. Only around each tree, the circumference of the person who gathers the fruit and his basket right next to him, which is, I believe, an amma altogether. Yeah.
So if it's a Sada Elon, the first Mishnah said that you can only be Chorish till Erev Shevi'is. Now we're saying
till Shavuos.
So now we're saying that if it's not an orchard, then you can plow around it.
If it's not an orchard, not after Shavuos. Up till Shavuos. Yeah, if it's an orchard, then you can plow the entire field where they are. If it's not an orchard, you can only try to plow immediately around the tree. Okay? What's the problem? Rabbi Yehuda b'Shem Shmuel, Rabbi Yevo b'Shem Rabbi Yochanan, they both said, this is a Bo Basra issue. It's a Choshen Mishpat issue. If I buy 3 trees in your land, Ruchoki Mata Sar Leveisah, and they are planted at an interval at which there'd be 10 in a Beisah, which means that they're planted roughly at intervals of 16 amas apart, then in that case, they're still, as long as I planted in a way that there's no more than 16 amas between trees, I acquire from you the land between the trees. This is all the way down to Kadeshia Bokar over Bekalov, that there should be up to, as long as there are at least 4 amas between the trees. That means I acquired not just the trees, but also the land between them. The karkash b'neim. What?
It adds a phrase, karkash tachtem, then karkash b'neim. Karkash tachtem doesn't sound like it's relevant.
I guess tachtem means under the trees. I do have tachtem here. I skipped it. He acquires the land which is underneath them and the land which is between those trees. And enough around those trees. But only the shear of the harvester and his basket, which is contradiction to our suit, because in our suit we said we give him the entire. Oh wait, let me make sure it's a question. No, that's not the question. The question is follows. Rav said even if they're in a row, we allow him to plow. We give him the entire field. Shmuel says that they made like a tripod, otherwise it doesn't work. Now what that means is 2 wires in a triangle. Okay. So now, what it means is that if I have 3 trees like this, and they're all 16 amas apart, so we just learned that in our case, you're allowed to plow the entire base saw around them, which is, I don't know what the square root of 2,500 was. I think it's 70. Yeah, I know what it is actually, because do I? No, it can't be. It's the square root of 5,000, 72 thirds by 72 thirds. Right. Boy, that was easy. So you give him the whole area 50 by 50. But here it says the assumption is that even in this case, it says here that the Rav says you get them even if they're in a straight line, and Shmuel says that you don't get them in a straight line, but only if they're in a tripod, meaning like that. Okay? Be it as it may, the kasha is that that we don't get the same shiur over there. In other words, over there we only get the land which is among them, between them, and a mole ore, the amount of the spot which it takes a person to pass by with his basket. That's all around them. So we only get this limited amount, not the whole yard like that. So why in our Gemara do we say he gets the whole yard? Can you see, Dr. Spinell? So it says more. Amar Rabbi Yosef, it said Tamadi Samarta There, the same was made by Choshim Mishpat. And here, it's not the same thing by so to speak, Yerodea, or Israel, whatever you want to call it. So there, when a guy sells a field to the other, when a guy sells trees to the other guys, he sells what we call ba'ayin ra, stingily. So therefore, he's not giving him any more which he has to than a tight-knit border around the trees which he's getting. But here, there's no such thing as ayin ra. It's between you and God. So God is ayin tova to you, so He gives you a whole big square to work with. Okay? Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda said, "Afilu hacha isamarta." Even here, we do extrapolate from there, b'kroivim, meaning that it can't be any closer than 4 together. Because if they're closer than 4 together, so it's as if they're only made to be uprooted. They're halfway out the door to become uprooted and become lumber. So therefore, in that case, you don't give a full base saw. However, says Mara, Rabbi Mona, if you're going to say they don't give him, you don't that there's a distinction between the two. So it says the Gemara, if that's the case, Mishum de Tininon, because we learned Kidei Sheyeh Bakar over B'Kei Love. That has to do with the bakar going through, the cattle going through with its pack, with its tools on its back. So says the Gemara, wait a minute. Isachameh, let's see. B'shasha bakar olaver b'kelov. It's not logical, you're saying. What you're assuming then is that when you have enough distance for a cow to pass by with his tools, then there's enough, then the roots spread out. When there isn't that distance, in that case, the roots don't go sideways. In other words, what's all that they're plowing? Because the roots spread out in all directions, right? Within 16 hours. So therefore, ask the Gemara, I understand something. If that's the case, so then, what difference does it make what the shiur is between this tree and this tree? That he said that if it's 4 amos, then you give. In terms of our sugya, by the way, in terms of our Yerushalmi Shevi'is, he said if it's 4 amos, then you give him the whole square. And for amos, you only give mole or v'chutzalo. Why draw that distinction? So it says the Gemara, I'll tell you why I draw the distinction. Or actually, the Gemara doesn't tell us at all why we make the distinction. The Gemara upholds the kasha. The Gemara says, what difference does it make to the root system if they're growing like this, or if they're growing like this? The root system should be the same regardless, right? So I should always give him the full field. I should give him anything less than the full field. So the truth is, the Yerushalmi himself doesn't answer, as I said, but on the bottom it brings down a pashut answer, which is if there's less than 4 amos between these trees, then what are they only made to be? Cut. So therefore it can't have the status of that which would fulfill the parameters of a yard which could be pruned or plowed right up to Shemitah. Okay? Says the Gemara further. Rabbi Lezer asked, if from one tree to the next tree it's 16, Uletzad is 25, but to the side is 25. What's the halach in this case? See the case here? Here you have 16 and 16, but here you have 25 and 25. Can you plow this whole field? What? Because maybe it only goes 16 amos in each direction. Why can you go 25 in this direction, 25 in that direction? In fact, the Chazal, he brings down in the Chazal Kabbalah that roots don't grow more than 16 amos. So, can you go this way throughout the entire Beit Saw or not? Okay? So the Gemara says, Uletzad. Another kasha. What happens if you Oh, it's all part of the same kasha, sorry. Between 20 you get up to 16, but on the side you get 25. Now the more asks another question along these lines. Let's say all three of these trees are next to the fence. Do you give him this whole expanse of 50 amos? Because that's an inherent right when you have trees, or do you only say that he gets a narrow strip of land along over there? Okay? Rabbi Yitzchak, let me see, read it inside again. Rabbi Shmuel Yitzchak Boyayin to see Mitzvah God. They're Choshe go base saw b'shvilon. Do we do the entire base over them? Rabbi Yitzchak said, in Bais, Nitan Lohem, if you want to ask a question, let's give him the following question. Our boss in. What do you do in this case of fourth in? Meaning, I don't have a field of 50 by 50, but 100 by 100.
Our boy himself.
Do you have our boy himself? Yeah, because you have my old sheet book where it changes all the gearsons, right? No, our boy would make no sense. It's a severe typo, right? Because that's a mikvah. Yeah, a mikvah, you know. Oh, that'll do the trees a lot of good, right? No, it's forcing, meaning, in this case over here, see where the trees are in the center of a large field, which is 4 times the size. Do I give them all 4 quadrants? Because each of the 4 quadrants might be regarded as being, their saw, right? These are my boys saw him. Sami come, let's come all 4. So it's interesting. He brings down here on the bottom that the halach l'maisa is that we do give all 4. And why is that? Because this is a case where it's chavush al yidei goder. Just like by kilayim, by the chumrah by chavush, right? And anything which is within walls is considered to be connected, right? Even if there's harchaka. Here we have a kula by chavush. Anything which is in walls is considered to be part and parcel of the field in question, and therefore you can do the harvesting in the entire field, even though it's 4 times the size of a regular field. Okay? I say harvesting, I meant plowing. Okay? So says Gemara, Ramiria boy. Until now I tell you about trees, 3 trees within a basin. What if you had one astronomically large vineyard and extended over 2 se'in? Do you only get, do you get that, you get the Malay or Salo, right, in that case, or do you get, not sure the alternative. I guess the alternative would be that you can only get up to a maximum of 1 saw, especially if you only have 1 tree and not 3 trees. So therefore the Gemara's question is whether in that case we have a tree with extensive foliage to get more than a base saw in order to plow and plant it, etc. Okay, and the Gemara doesn't respond. Tani, we learned the Brisa. Ila milamalam. You have a tree up at a mountainside. Here's the tree. So Choshen Olamaton, on Erev Shemitah, during the period which should have been those Erev Shemitah, you're allowed to be Choresh over here. Why allowed to be Choresh over here? Because the roots go down that way. Ask the Gemara, you see it?
What about the top side of it?
Oh! So says the Gemara, Ila Milamaton, if the tree is down below, Choshen Lo Milamah, you can plow on top over here. I understand the case of when the tree is on top, you plow down below, because roots go down. However, where the tree is down, and you can plow further up, do roots climb? Says the Gemara, let's hear from the Vilna case. The Tziniato we learned over there in Boabasra, Marchigim Salilam min Abor 25 Amma. I have to distance my tree from your well 25 Amma so the roots don't break into it. Vitani, alone we learned concerning this baby Lamal Milamaton, where the well is higher than the tree or lower than the tree. So we see that the tree, the roots can go up. Says more, it's not a raya. Well, you know why? I lost my place. That's why. Okay, he says v'in tamar. If you're going to say bein shei lamal v'abor lamaton, bein shei ilon v'abor lamaton, if you're going to say that that's true, that makes no difference. V'atani, then we learn bein shei ilon milamalon v'abor milamaton, whether the tree is up further and the well is further down. Bein tree lamato or lamalon, or whether the well is for tree is further down and the well is higher up. So we have a riot from this brisa, says the word. On Rechina said, no, let me dash Roshim. It's not because roots can grow up. Roots cannot grow up. They can't grow like that. Rather, Elamim Nation Osim Ofarti Choach. The roots which grow out, they make this dirt under here crumbly, the dirt under the well. So since they make this dirt crumbly,
so it indirectly affects the well. It's not the roots themselves. Right. It's the loose earth.
Right. Right. So that's how it works. Okay. So they make. So in any event, it says the Gemara, Asa uvdu kumei Rabbi Yosef Barbun. Rabbi came from Rabbi Yosef Barbun. Avamri said, Yechidi, that which says you're not allowed to plant a tree in the proximity of the well. Either if the well is further up on the mountain slope, it's the opinion of a specific individual. We don't rely on Paske. The tiny K, we learned this explicitly. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Keshev Shu Milamalon, Kachomu Milamaton. It's Rabbi Shimon who says a tree roots grow in all directions. We don't Paske like him. Okay, next Mishnah. Bryce Mishnah Gimel. Now he's going to divide this Mishnah in two, so it's going to be in three actually.
This whole prior Gemara didn't explain why Rabbanan, I guess, the Takana did not apply on depends on the configuration of. Just said flat out, the Takana Rabbanan just doesn't apply in certain situations.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's just why wouldn't the Isser of Tosefes Shevi'is apply?
It was too big a hardship.
That's right.
I think so. Yeah, that's my understanding. This we already had this before. Whether it's a non-fruit bearing tree or Echel Mach or fruit bearing tree, Roina, so our perspective is this Ki'ilu Hein Te'inim. We look at them as if they're figs. In Miriam Lasos Kikot Vev, they can make a measure of figs. Shoshishimana would weigh 60 mana be Talki in Italy. Choshin Kol Beiso Bishulon, we can plow the entire field for them. Bachs Mikanovitz makes less than that. In Choshim Lanelo, it's Orakon. You only plow for what's absolutely necessary. The Lumru Mutain. Now, you probably have the Mishnah continue, right? Mishnah continues by you guys, right?
Yeah, sure.
Not by me. Skip down to the Gemara. We're going to go back to the Mishnah. And he divides up into three segments.
Oh, there it is.
V'lomer Mutainim. Why they pick figs? Because it's a kulai. Deshper saying gasim because it has thick, juicy figs. And venosim marbe, they make a lot. So therefore you need fewer trees. Okay, in order to make up, well, not fewer trees, but you need less fruit, less numbers of fruit in order to make up this parameter. Vare Esro, that's one same gasin, which has thick fruit, so let's choose that as being a measure. Enos harbe, but there are not many esrogim in a tree. What about those which do make a lot of fruit? And per saying gasim, their fruit is not thick, meaning it's not so filling, right? That's not filling, but it won't fill up the quota. So since it won't fill up the quota, so therefore we can choose this example. Rather, we chose figs because elu also sarbi, they make a lot of fruits, and persein gasim, they have thick fruit as well. So it's much quicker to end the growing season in that case. Amar Chibra said, Kol ilane avdin shana. All trees do they make fruit a year, and then perishon will lead them to go wild because they diminish in size the following year. But the tanza avdo kol shana, and this is forgot what this means. Yeah. Okay. This by a fig you can measure every year. This fig tree does every year. In other words, by any other tree, it's hard to reach this measure because of 60 whatever it was, 60 points worth of fruit. Because by every other tree, first of all, they don't do a lot. Secondly, they're not big fruit. Thirdly, they don't even grow every year. Right? Some years they just go fallow. Whereas a fig tree can go every year, so therefore it's very easy to use to determine the size of your forests or your orchards in order to determine whether you have to harvest them on Erev Shemitah. Okay? There's the Mishnah. Going back to the Mishnah now. Do you see that over there?
Yeah.
What if one of the trees produces enough for all three? It fulfills the quota of all three. The other two don't, or vice versa. Or two can do it and one cannot. It doesn't count as three trees. It's got to be that each tree fulfills the specific role allotted unto it. It says Ma'achu Mishlosha Tisha. That's when they were between 3 and 9, meaning that they have to divide it up. 3 trees each has to do 33%. 4 trees each has to do 25%, and so on and so forth, up to 9 trees, up to and including. If there are 10 or more than 10, whether they make fruit or not, they're considered to consist in orchard, and don't need these proportions of everybody doing 10%, everybody doing 20%. You just do the entire base off of them right up to Shemitah. Okay, now go back to the Gemara again. Yeah, the Gemara where we left off. I don't have that. I have Rabibi. They're Rabibi. Yeah, he takes out the headers in this case, this Gemara usually. Rabbi Shevi'is said, as we said, has to be meted out in threes. 33% over 3 trees, each one. Says the Mishnah as well, it's no less than a ninth each when they're 9 trees. Right? It's got to be, each person gives 11%. Over Baraglov. What if we had a case like this? We had a case where there are 4 trees in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4. And between each of these trees, there's 4 amos. It's not drawn to scale. Finally, the last case, the last stop. Again, over Bekela. Here the 4 can get through. But then you had another 2. Ushnaim and a bakar over Bekela. Let's say this is 3. And this is 3. 3 amos, right? So in that case, we say...
You said Chamishim Abakar over the Caleb?
Yeah.
But Arba is not?
4 of those. We used to do a case of 6. Okay? So, right, different case. Razir Barachida said...
Texture too, so it's hard to...
It is?
Yeah, because here it says, Hoya Arba Abakar over the Caleb. Shnayim ve'ein Abakar over the Caleb.
Right.
Oh, 2 of those? There's 6. Oh,
6 altogether.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, I just...
Okay. Should we scratch that? Should I erase the tape?
Yeah.
You want those to be 18.5 minutes?
Forever, that's all.
Okay. So, we look at this one as if it's uprooted. And there you have your 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? To make it the right proportions. Not halachically. You have to put on your halachic looking glasses.
The opposite of what we had with
That's right.
had an imaginary tree.
Right. It's the opposite of the imaginary tree. But we did have this concept of kilayim too. If 3 rows of grapes are planted 2 rows together, then you take out the middle row. We did have that in kilayim. Okay, he puts that on the bottom. It's not my brilliance. Okay, says the Gemara. Plukta, the Rabbi Shimon through this Gemara, which points out now immediately as well. Chamisha, right. Plukta shiur rabbanan. So that's a plan. Machlos shiur rabbanan. In other words, take one out to begin with. If a kerem is less than 4 amos in breadth, Rabbi Shomer ain't a kerem, it's not considered vineyard. Chomim kerem. Chomim said it's a kerem. Right. And we look at the middle ones as if they're not there. So it's a similar idea to what we just did. All right. Now back to the Mishnah again. Does everybody see that again? It says the Choresh cut the dishbos. You should rest in the harvest, in the plowing, and in the harvesting. Ain't so Choresh can be going on the plowing and harvesting of Shemitah itself. El Choresh is going on the plowing of Erev Shemitah. Nichnas l'Shmita, Shevi'is goes into Shemitah. This is repetitive already. The Shevi'is and the harvest after Shemitah. Yotzim Shevi'is is going into the year after Shemitah. Rabbi Shmuel Mer Ma'chorish Ritus. He says no. Don't pass not to Shemitah. It's about Sfiras HaOmer. Ma'chorish Rishus Avkotzer Rishus. Because the linkage being drawn here between, this is a Gemara and Shabbos also, I think. There's a linkage being drawn here between the chorish, between the harvesting, between the plowing and the harvesting. So we needed to have a case, ma'chorish rishus avkotzer rishus, where just like the plowing is voluntary, so too the harvesting is voluntary. So since that linkage leads us to assume that yotzak tzir omer, that this pasuk is talking about the tzir omer, and it's talking about the tzir omer, the harvesting of the omer, that you can't be doche Shabbos with it. But so they can be doche Shabbos, go cut down the grain to make the omer. It says more lo asya do al resha, and the word lo asya to lo al resha, and the word to lo, going back to the Gemara, the word to lo here as a contraction means da ella. So we're saying that which Rabbi Shmuel argues, he's not arguing the immediately preceding statement about the Dvelos and all that kind of stuff. He's going back to the beginning of the Masechta, and it's saying Lo asyo do ela reisha ein choshim lem kol tzar ela tzarkot shnemar b'chosh v'kotzir tishvos. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. It's going in the Reisha or Mishnah. It's saying that the Reisha or Mishnah which brings the drush is to justify all the things which we said till now. Similarly, Rabbi Shmuel Mer v'chulei. Rabbi Shmuel also is coming to argue really in everything that we had to now. And Shmuel, like he said, is like his line opinion. Shmuel Mer Eina Omer Bo Misuria. Shmuel holds the Omer can't come from Syria because it's a mitzvah to cut the Omer. Just like it doesn't come from Syria, so too it really is a mitzvah to cut it by default in Eretz Yisrael, right? So just like it's mitzvah to cut in Eretz Yisrael, it's not there. We have a havamina that it should be doche Shabbos, because it's a mitzvah. So it's to bring it specifically from the land of Israel. So maybe it's a mitzvah even to bring it on Shabbos. That's why I need a special pasuk to tell us Yotzir Tzir Omer Shu Mitzvah, that even though it's a mitzvah to bring the specific Tzir Omer from Eretz Yisrael properly at the right time. But that's only if you don't link Katir to Chorish. But once I link Katir to Chorish, sorry, Rabbi Shmuel holds it is Docha Shabbos. It does push off Shabbos. Rabbi Shmuel holds it does push off Shabbos. Rabbi Shmuel says, going back to the Mishnah, Rabbi Shmuel says that Chorish the Kor Rishus Av Kotzer Rishus. What are we talking about when we say we ask? What's that? Touche. What are you saying when we say it's not Docha Shabbos? Optional harvest. I know it's from the Bavli. That's why I'm so upset with myself. It's in the Bavli all over the place. Optional harvests are not Doicher Shabbos, but mandatory harvests are Doicher Shabbos. But it says B'choish v'kotzir tishpos, says Rabbi Shmuel, it's going on optional harvest. Just like optional, all plowings are optional. So too what? And they're all also on Shabbos. So too. Any optional harvest is also on Shabbos. But Chodesh v'Kotz Tishbos means any optional activity of Chodesh and Kotz here. But it's a mandatory activity. The activity of harvesting for Sfira, so for Ktsira Omer, right? Then it is Doicher Shabbos.
It's usually so.
This is more on Shabbos, right? Shmuel, it's Doicher Shabbos.
So it's done on Yontif itself.
It's done on, yeah. It's even done on Shabbos if Shabbos comes out on Yontif.
Okay, but we pass that it's done Motzoi yet.
No.
We follow Rabbi Shmuel?
Well, we don't do it Bisman.
I understand. But
yeah, no, we pass on Rabbi Shmuel, I believe.
The thing is, you do Motzoi, you do the first time Motzoi Yontif.
Mitzvah so Omer, says the Rambam in Tmidim Musafim, the Kotzel Balayla Belel Tezayin, Ben Bechol Ben B'Shabbos. Probably did have Menachos too. Yeah, he brings it down here from Menachos Ayin base. Maybe I was wrong about Shabbos. I think I remember. You're right. It's Menachos. Very good. Okay. So now let's see the Gemara over again. No, so he's already Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Kiva learned the pasuk of B'chodesh v'Kotzer Tishbos is going on Shemitah, and that's where we learned those Yerushalmi Shevi'is from. From B'chodesh v'Kotzer Tishbos, that there's a harvesting. There's a plowing which leads into Shemitah, even though it begins before, and there's a harvesting which ends after Shemitah. He learns those Yerushalmi Shevi'is. Says Rabbi Shmuel, no, this whole pasuk is not talking about Shevi'is. This pasuk is talking about Shabbos. It's telling you what kind of harvesting you have to refrain from on Shabbos. Optional harvesting, just like optional plowing. So that's their machlokas. How to learn the pasuk. According to Rabbi Shmuel, the whole Torah source for those Yerushalmi Shevi'is is undermined, because he holds it's all going on Ktsira Omer. Okay, so let's see the Gemara up again. Lo asya the lo asya the law al reisha. That which he brought down this pasuk b'chodesh v'Kotzer. This is going back on the reisha. It's telling us the halachic basis of those Yerushalmi Shevi'is. And choshem el tzorkon. And you're only allowed to harvest for the need of the trees, and not past then. Shenem mar b'chodesh v'Kotzer tishbos. You have to have those Yerushalmi Shevi'is. Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Shmuel says that there is no such thing as those Yerushalmi Shevi'is, and this whole thing is going on harvesting and Shabbos. Kedaiti, Rabbi Shmuel Omer, Eino Omer Bo Misuria. Rabbi Shmuel says Omer doesn't come from Syria. Why doesn't it come from Syria? Because it's a mitzvah. So what if it's a mitzvah? It's a mitzvah bismana. If it's a mitzvah bismana, what does it do? Pushes off Shabbos. Yotzah Katzir Omer Shu mitzvah. Just like it can't come from Syria because it's a mitzvah, so too it's Doicher Shabbos because it's mitzvah. And we paskin like Rabbi Shmuel. Okay. Weiter. Shlosha Ilanos. Now we're going to learn a couple of kulas. 3 trees, which we said you can harvest up till Rosh Hashanah, essentially. So 3 trees, so Shlosha Anoshim of 3 different people. Well, I shouldn't say it. Plow, I can say it. 3 trees, according to Beishamim, so it's only till Shavuos, right? Or approximately there. But now, according to Gamliel, according to the Chazorah, so now it's up to Rosh Hashanah. So when is that true? Even 3 trees show Shlosha Anoshim, 3 different people. Hareilim Mitzdarf, and they join together. We can harvest the entire, we'll plow the entire base off for them. The Kami Abinam, what's the minimum shiur which could be between them? Gamliel Mer Kadesh Abakar Vakil, at least 4 hours between them, in order that it shouldn't be designated for uprooting. Rabbi Chia says the Loner Shlodam Echad. The karka shlodam acher. If the trees belong to one person and the land belongs to another person, mitzdarfin, they join together. And we can plow the entire base off for them. Rabbi Yasser said, "Afanantinan to Rabba." We learn an even greater chiddush. The time where the 3 trees belong to 3 separate people. The karka shlodam acher, and the land underneath them belongs to yet another person. They're joined together. The can plow the entire base over them. And here it says even ad Rosh Hashanah. right? Which according to Rabbi Gamliel, of course. Even the guy who owns the field, even though the guy who owns the field, he's not plowing for the trees. He couldn't care less about the trees. What's he plowing for? For crops. But still, he schlepped along with the trees, and he can plow himself until Erev Rosh Hashanah. So Mechiras Chametz Halacha. Okay, I raised them to as well. Okay, weiter. Now this is all talking about till now trees. What about saplings, which obviously require less space? Baby tree. Eser netios mifuzaris betoch beis saw. If you have 10 saplings scattered in a beis saw, as opposed to the 3 we're learning till now, chorshago beis saw, you can plow the entire beis saw for them. Bishvilan ad Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah. Hoya shura. What if they were in a row? Mukavas Torah, or they were surrounded by a fence. So ain't choshim elotarkim. You only give them what they need and not more than that. Rabbi Zira, Rabbi Law, and Rabbi Yasa all said. Excuse me, Shem Rabbi Yochanan. Arav aloch l'Moshe Sinai. What Arav are we talking about? Sukkot, yeah. Arav, this more appears essentially in the Bavli and Sukkot. Sukkah. The use of Arava. When do we use Arava on Sukkot? Fell into the trap. Which Arava are we talking about? Hashanas, yes. And Yerushalmi, they used to put on the Mizbeach every day in Beis HaMikdash. Okay? So what Arava? Oh, you guys failed that one. Arava loch l'Moshe Sinai. Arava is aloch l'Moshe Sinai. That you have to have Aravos in themselves. Udulok Abishol, it's not like Abishol. Abishol Amar. Abishol says Arava dvar Torah. Aravas di'oraisa di'chsiv arvei nachal. It says arvei, right? Which is plural. Chad shtayim means two. Chad arav lulav, one for lulav. Chad arav lemikdash. Rabbi Chia Barva. You know, all of a sudden it hit me when I saw this. It says here Rabbi Chia Barva. Barva means his father's name was Va. And this is the Rabbi Chia. But in Kilaim, all over it said Rabbi Chia Ruba. It's probably a typo. I always translate as Rabbi Chia Ruba, Rabbi Chia the Great. But it's probably supposed to be Rabbi Chia Barva. And whoever did over the Yerushalmi in Kilayim, and aside with the other Masechtas, wrote it over as Rabbi Chia Ruba. I bet you it's true. Okay? Because the same letters. Okay. Rabbi Chia Barva, B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan said, Eser Netios, the 10 saplings you can plow.
We have like a rava, the Nisach HaMayim halacha Moshe Sinai.
Yeah. Eser Netios, the 10 saplings you can plow, and a rava, and Nisach HaMayim. He throws in, my Gersa throws in Eser Netios here. Oh. So it's all 3. Eser Netios, a rava, and Nisach HaMayim. The libation of waters on Yontif of Sukkot, halacha Moshe Sinai, look Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, not Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. Oh, so here it says Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, I guess because what it says in the Gemara actually, Nisuch HaMayim Dvar Torah. Libations of water on Yontif, as we all know, is learned from the Torah. Shnei it says B'Sheni on the second day of Sukkot V'Niskeihem instead of V'Niska. B'Shishi it says on the 6th day of Sukkot V'Nisochea instead of V'Niska. B'Shvi Mishpaton. Mem, Yud, Mem, there's an extra Mem, an extra Yud, an extra Mem, Mayim. And that we learn, Nisuch HaMayim. Rechia Barva, Kukba, Kumi Rabbi Yochanan, as for Rabbi Yochanan, V'achshav Lo Ma'in Choishin Biskeinos. You know what? That works for saplings. That Allah Moshe Sinai gives you till Rosh Hashanah. But why do we have, even by older trees now, till Erev Rosh Hashanah? So it says more. Amarlo, he responded, B'shoshin halacha, when the halacha was given, either the halacha Moshe Sinai, if it's a deraisa, or when the takon of the Rabbanan was made of those Shevi'is, Kachnitna was given with this caveat, Shivakshu lachrosh yachrosh, if they wanted to overturn it and start plowing, they have permission to do so. Okay? Rabbi Bar Zvida B'Shem Rabbi Chunya, the Bikas Beis Choron said, Choro Chavron said also, Oh, these three things are Rav on Sukkos, Nisu Chamayim and Sukkos, the water libation, and the Esenetios, Misoid Nevi'anim. These halachos were founded by the Nevi'im. This is Ma Polik, what he argued on the previous Gemara, says Halacha Moshe Mishinai. Rabbi Yossi Bar Bo Mishem Rabbi Levi said, Kach I saw halacha b'yadon shchochu, they had this halacha and they forgot it. The later generations came in the second Beis Hamikdash. These schemot as Yisraelim, and they themselves intuitively perceived that which was known to the original generations. Lamercha, to teach us, shekol davar shebesin noisim nafshel, of anything basin gives most and nefesh to determine, so if Liskai be able to eventually be able to figure out. Moshe Nemar, Lo, Moshe Messiah, whatever is told to Moshe Messiah, they'll be able to figure out. This is going like that which Raimona said. It's not saying empty from you, v'im reiku, and if it's empty, if you don't understand the Torah, mikem, it's because you weren't diligent enough. But you don't toil in it. Because it's your life. When is it your life? But when you toil in Torah. Shlomo's not associated with Chaz Beis Shreiva. The best of my knowledge. But my knowledge comes from Sech Sukkah, yours might come from Tanakh. I just don't recall such a thing. Okay? Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Chia Barvar. Rabbi Yochanan said to Rabbi Chia Barvar, Bavlaya, you Babylonians, train me in Tzalku B'Yodcha. You brought up two good things from Bavel. Yashar Koyach. One of them is when they used to prostrate themselves in Tanesim. They used to prostrate themselves the entire length of the ground, which we do, of course, also, but only at one Tanis, which is which? Yom Kippur, right? Va'arav so the Yom HaShvi'ah. And that we should do this Hoshana's business line the last day of Sukkot. To the best of my knowledge, this is not brought down in the Bavli. That, the beating of those Hoshana's, the clapping. It's only on Hoshana Rabbah. I don't remember exactly, but I think that this is the primary source for it. Okay? Rabbanan the Gesorin Afadam Makastor. Rabbanan the Gesorin said also that what days to bloodlet, which was a tradition which came from Bavel. Tana we learn. Netiyah Me'ein Eser. What if you have? We learned right. So, what if you have a sapling which is like 10? Saplings are normally like 10. Whose kena main church and elderly is like 3. Isachamei. Let's come and see this case. The tia sheniris kiskena. What about this? Is the next case in the Brayser. What if you have a young tree which looks like it's an old tree because it has a lot of fruit? Anosila kiskena. Then in that case, you go like an older tree. You only require 3 in a base saw. Vatamartin the tia main eser. Didn't you say though that you need to have by Natiyah, by a sapling, something akin to the 10? What about the other case? You have an older tree, but it only grows fruit like a younger tree. It's a defective tree. It's stunted growth. Drank too much coffee. You only give it to do you give it only like a younger tree, which means that only if there are 10 of them. Argi said, because you already said it's Kana, specifically 3. And Rabbi said, no, you missed the point. What does it mean that it's like 10, but it's sapling? That there's generally no sapling which is like 3, which gives a fruit to such an extent like an older tree. There's Kana main sholosh. And there's no older tree, which is like a younger one, which require 10. Skena is always 3. That you shouldn't say that 3 which do produce fruit are Keser Shenos is like 10 which don't produce fruit. The Kavasa shows Keser Shenos. Keser Shenos, and also shouldn't say about older trees, which are producing fruit, but not as good as you might like. That's like 10 which are not producing fruit. That's why I say is Kano gets like 3. In other words, really, it comes out that it's not an issue of productivity, but an issue of chronology. In other words, when it says as Kano's main Cholish, it means the parameters are 3, regardless of how much it grows or how little it grows. And so too, when we say in the Tias, the parameter is 10. It's also regardless of how much grows or how little grows. Everything is based on the quotas, not on the any ulterior issue here. What? That actually, I just misspoke. I'm sorry. Nothing's based on the quotas. Nothing's based on the quotas. Everything's based on the age, on a chronological age. It's quality, not quantity. That's correct. Okay. So, Tani, we learned. What if you have a field of reeds? So the Nidoinik is state 4. It's like a grain field. Now, although the text doesn't bring down the Kapanogabis as a kasha, because nobody says a field of reeds are like trees. Right? Bamboo canes. They're like trees. So should I say parameters? Why do they have like grain? So Rav Shem said this is a very cryptic line. So I saw in the back it brings down an amazing shot of this. A beautiful shot. Mavis Susai Mushak is what they say in the trade. So what it means is there's halacha by Eruv that an Eruv you're not allowed to have a karpaf, an unusable area of a base or side or more in your Eruv. And one of the parameters of a karpaf, there are many of them, but one of the parameters of karpaf is a field which is planted where they don't let you walk through it because it's not susceptible to your usage, and the fact that it's planted is not considered to be a usage. So it says this, so quite this shot here in the back, wherever it was, Zivaner or something like that. What it means here is that take vis-a-vis Shemitah, a field full of reeds. A bamboo cane is like trees. But vis-a-vis Eruv, a field full of bamboo canes, since you can't walk through it or use it for anything else, it's a karpaf. In other words, a forest is not a karpaf because you can walk through it. But a field of reeds is like a karpaf because you can't walk through it, and therefore you have an area based on Saim in your Eruv, which has so many reeds. Can't include Eruv, possible to Eruv. Makes it over. Okay?
Like a dense forest.
What? A dense forest would be the same thing. Right. Doesn't argue Rav. The Rav Amar Basuina Sashura, when you buy trees which are planted in a row, then you buy all the land underneath them as well. Seems to indicate that a year or two, you should be able to get the land, regardless. So says the Gemara, Khan, Aidesha in the Teals. Here, since they're saplings, if they're scattered throughout the Beisof, Rosa Kilu Malaya, then you see the field as if it's full.
Words are so different.
What?
Words are so different too.
Well, let me do it again slowly. Rav doesn't argue on Rav, who said the Rav Amar Ba'asui and Shur, when they're planted 3 in a row, so then you get all the land underneath them, regardless. So why does it say here that when it says in our Mishnah, in order to be able to plow the entire base saw, they have to be planted in intervals throughout the base saw, not all in a row in the base saw. So it says, well, I'll tell you why the difference is. Kanai they is here because they're young saplings. Imbuzars betok base saw, only if they're scattered throughout the base saw. You look at the base saw as if it's full saplings. That's why you can plow it right up to Shemitah. Because it looks like they do it for saplings. And truth is, than saplings, nothing's growing. So that's what makes it more permissible, because they don't grow for a while. But Ram Shura, bought by Shura, when you buy from your friend. Not when you buy from your friend. Yeah, when you... Not when you buy for fin. That's the case over there. But here, rather, in the case over here, where we're talking about where all those 10 trees that you planted a row, so it doesn't look like they take up the whole base saw, therefore you can't do the whole base saw. To throw one place, we isolate them over there, and we only plow as much as they need, not the entire base saw which surrounds them. Alright, I was seeing finishing the parak, but it's late, and we did 2 blot already. So we'll stop here for this evening. Basically, one thing I want to mention, and which take away from this, is that Tosefes Shevi'is, be the Raisa, may be a concept be the Raisa, in which case it's either a Mashu or 30 days. The Rabbanan is from Shavuos, and there's an entire possibility that the entire concept is that the Rabbanan and not the Raisa. Okay? We'll stop here.